Hello everyone, welcome back again. My name is Jesse and in this wonderful tutorial, we're trying to build a very simple app with Streamlit. So we're building a to-do app which is using the same concept of CRUD, right? That is create, read, update, and then delete. So we're trying to see how to build a simple app from scratch in Streamlit. So let's see what we're building. So we have the option of creating. So creating means that you can add data to it, right? Then we also have read. So let's add a data. So there's going to be awesome things, right? Something like that. Then I'll just specify the status of what I want to do. So let's call it as doing or to do. So this is doing awesome things. Perfect. You can make it a radio button if you want. You can also specify the date that you want, the due date. So the due date is supposed to be, let's say 16th, tomorrow, right? That's if you are watching from the future. Then if I go back to the add tags, now I can add that particular item to it. So it's going to add it perfectly to us. Very nice, right? So that is how to add data. So this is for the create. So if I go back to the R, I can also read the data that I have added to my app. So if I go to the view all, I can see that that data has been added, right? Or some things doing and then the date. Then I can also check the status, the task status, to see the percentage of the things I've left to do. So this is going to give us a value count of the number of to-dos. I have 3 to-dos and then 2 doing, and it's going to give us this wonderful nice plot, right? Something very simple, something very basic. Then if I go back to the update, that is where I edit my data. So in case I want to change the doing or some things to something else, so I can just come back here. So this is the current data, so I want to change this or some things, so I'll click it from here or some things. It's going to populate inside my test input area. Then I can change it to awesome things to awesome, let's say coding, something like that, right? Then I can also change the doing, right? Because initially it was doing, as you can see from here, it is being reflected here, right? Then I can change it from doing to, let's say, done, right? I'm changing it. Then I can also specify the date, and you can see that the date, this is the initial date. So I can change the date from 16th to, let's say, 18th. And then I can click on the update. Click on the update task, then it's going to update it perfectly for us. So I can just check what has been updated by coming down here. So if I go down here, you can see that now it's now awesome coding, right? And you can compare this one with the initial one. So this was the initial one, right? Awesome things now has been updated to awesome coding. Very simple and very nice. That is for the update, right? So create, read, update. Now the last one is going to be delete. So if I go to the delete option, I can be able to delete a particular data that I have. So let's say I want to delete what I placed there, awesome coding. So I can just select it here, then go with awesome coding, then delete. Then it's going to delete it perfectly for us. Now I can check back to the updated data, see that deleted awesome coding, check the updated data, and now it's no more there, right? Very simple. So that's a very simple app you'll be trying to build from scratch in this wonderful tutorial. So this is a very basic concept that is useful in many applications. So let's see how to use this same concept in Streamlit. So in case you want more, you can also check the links below on more stuff with Streamlit. Okay, so let's start building our app. So I'm going to go back to my terminal. Right, so this is my terminal. Then I'm going to get that from this place. Right, so let's do some simple stuff. Long place, right? Okay, so I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call that my to-do app, right? You can make it bigger so that I can see it well. Then inside my to-do app, there's nothing there. I'm going to create my first file, app.py. Very simple. That's all that we need. So let's open it from here. So Sublime. I'll open our to-do app. Then you start writing from scratch. So in case you don't have Streamlit, you can just install it with Streamlit. Pip install Streamlit. That is how to install it on your system. Very simple and very easy. Okay, so that is how to install it. So now let's start setting up my place. We did the old app, so I'm just going to close the old app. Then we will start writing some code. Perfect. So let's start from scratch. So I'll open my app.py file. Then from here, I'm going to import my core package. It's going to be Streamlit. So our core package. Import Streamlit as st, right? So we'll be doing everything from scratch. So it may take some time, and I may be very fast a little. Apologies for that. So that's it. And we'll also be importing our EDA package using Pandas to help us give our data in a very nice frame. So Pandas. Right, perfect. So we're using Pandas. So let's create our main function, and then we just go straight away. So pass our if main. Something very simple, right? So let's write something simple here. st.title, then you design it later. So to do app, right, with Streamlit. Something very simple. So let's start this app that we have. So I'll go back to my terminal, then you start it. So this is where the app is. So Streamlit run app.py. It's going to use your default browser to open on a local host and a special port. So once it's open, let's go back to our app, and then let's start writing the basic structure of our app, right? So it's going to be my choice, as we always do. We have a menu, which is going to be our create, right? Because it's a CRD, create, read, then the rest, right? So we have create for the C, read for the reading, update. Perfect. So we have our create, right? Our read, our update, and then our delete. So we'll be creating the various sessions, right? So this is going to be a sidebar. So it's going to be my choice. With the st.sidebar.select box, as we always do. Then I'll pass in my menu, then my list of places we can do, right? Perfect. So let's save this and let's see what we have done so far. So if I come back here, it's going to tell me that to always run. So let's go with the always run here, so we keep on seeing the changes. Then let me bring myself up. Okay, so this is the sidebar now. Our sidebar is showing our create, right? Our read, our update, our delete, and then our about. So in this place, let's make some simple changes. So I'm just going to come back here and say that if my choice, as we always do, is equal to create, right? So for create, the concept of create is to be able to add data. So let's call this my info, or let's call it subheader, and I pass in what I want to do. So creating means that you're adding items, right? You're adding data to it. That's going to be for the create. So else if the choice is equal to read means you want to view. So st.subheader, you want to view all the items there, right? Then the next one is going to be my update. So else if the choice is equal to update means you want to edit, or you want to update stuff. So subheader, edit, or update items there, right? See how I spelled items? See, the word items can be changed to spell times, right? Very nice. Then the next one is going to be else if the choice is equal to delete. So delete means you are deleting, so there's no other word or to remove. So delete data, right? Delete an item or remove an item. So that is something very simple. Else st.subheader for the about. Something very simple. So if I save it now, everything is going to work perfectly. We are going to see the changes in our app. So we see that this is at the create option. So let's see how to create, right, our stuff. So creating means that you are trying to add items. So I'm going to create a test input area in which we can place in our details. So I'll just come back down here. Then we're going to be using layout. So this is going to be our layout. So it's going to be my, let's create two layouts. So column 1 and then column 2, st.beta expander, no beta columns, right? And then 2. So perfect. We are just creating two different columns. Then we will say that with column 1, what do I want to do? With column 1, I want you to place in my test input area to receive the task. So let's go to task, st.test area, which is going to be the task you want to do, right? So task to do. So if I save it now, you're going to see that it's going to appear here, right? So this is going to be our task to do, the task that I want to do. Very simple. Then that is going to be for column 1. Then under column 2, so with column 2, I want you to put in 3 things. We are going to be placing our status for the task we are doing and the due date. So task status, which is going to be st dot. Let's use a select box. Now pass in my status of the task. So this is going to take a list. So the list is going to be to do that I want to do it, then doing, that means that it's in progress, and then done. You can also use a radio button if you want. Then the next task we'll be having is, apart from the status, we want to also have in our date. So task due date, so that you be able to know the date that you are supposed to do that particular stuff. So st.date input. Then I'll pass in the due date. So due date. So this simple code is going to generate a very nice calendar for us. So if I expand this up that I have, so now we have our area to be able to type in our test. We have our status, which we have 3, to do, doing, or done, right? Then we also have our date input. If I click on it, it's going to give us this powerful, nice calendar that I can select. Very simple. So you have gotten a place in which you can add our data. So let's add a button to it, right? So we'll be adding a button to it. I'll just come back down here. Then we'll add a button downstairs here. So it's going to be st, or if st.button. You can call it as add data, add item, right? You can call it add item, you can call it add tax or add data, anyhow you want to be. Let's call it as add tax, right? Then I'll just go with st.success, so successfully, I can't spell it. Yeah, added data, right? Then let's make it like this, dot format. Now passing my tax there. Perfect. So we are done with it. So let's recap. So what we have done is that we just created test area input to be able to place in our data, right? So this is still under the creation, that is the C aspect of the CRUD, right? So now we have to create a place in which we can send the data to a database. So that is the next task we'll be trying to do, right? So let's come back again, and then this is going to be for the add option. So I'll create another feature option, create another file, and I'll call it as my db functions, as we always do. So db database functions .py. Let's call database functions plural. So inside this place we have my database function. You can call it as manage.py, anyhow you want it, but database function is simple. Then I'm going to be creating my connection to my database. We are using SQLi3, which is simple for everybody. That is going to be the first one. Then we need to create a connection to that particular database, right? Right, so let's create. So we are using SQLi3. Then I'm going to create a connection, which is going to be my SQLi3.connect to a particular database. So I'll call it as my data.db, right? Perfect. So sometimes here you can also specify to check the thread so that you set it as false, but you can leave it like that and it's still going to work. Perfect. Then now let's move on to C for the cursor. So the cursor is going to be what is going to be used to execute our SQL statement. So it's going to be my connection.cursor. That is all, right? So this is going to create our database here. Then it's going to connect to it, right? Perfect. So let's create our table, because every database we need a table, right? So inside a table there's going to be a field, right, or columns. Then every one of the columns must have a data type. So that is how it is. So we have a database which has been created here. Then inside the database we need a table. Then inside the table we need a field, right, which is the same as a column, which is going to have our data type, right? So let's see how to create a table. So I'll create a function called create table, which is going to be like this. So I'm going to use a simple SQL statement. So C, as we said, the cursor is used to execute. Now give the statement I want. So I want to create a table if not exist, if the table does not exist. So exist, I can't spell exist, right? If the table does not exist, then I'm going to give it the table name. So let's call that tax table. Perfect. Then as I said, every table must have a field. So I'm going to specify the field, then specify the data type for each and every of the field, right? So we have three options here. As we saw, we had the task itself, the task status, and then the test input, right, for the date input. So I'll come back here and I'm going to go, that's my first one is going to be the task itself, which is going to take a data type of test. The next one is going to be the task status, which is also going to be of test. Then the next one is going to be my task due date, which is going to take a data type of date. Perfect. So that is something very simple that you have done, right? So that is also this simple statement that we have here. Create table. If the table does not exist, the name of the table is going to be my task table, right? Then it's going to take a field of or a column of task for my test input here, right? For the task, and then for the task status, and then the task due date, and I'm giving them their respective data types, right? Very simple. So this is all to create a table. Now we also need to create a function to be able to add data to it. So it's going to be my add data. Then this is going to pick these individual fields, my task status, and my task due date as input, right? So or as arguments. So it's going to be my task status, and then my task due date. Perfect. So I'm going to insert it into my database. So it's going to be my c.execute. Then I'm going to say that insert into my database, right? And into this table, task table, these particular details. So I want you to insert into that particular place, into these respective fields, my task field, my task status field, and then my task due date field. These values. So the values I want to put there is what I'm going to move on next. So insert into those places these values, and then these values are going to be 3, right? So I'm going to say that irrespective of the value I'm putting there, we don't know them. So I'm putting question mark there. I don't know them. Question mark. I don't know. Question mark. I don't know. Right. So put them in the respective field in this my table. That is all, right? Then you can just use a tuple to collect this argument that we have here. So I'll copy this. That's what we are inserting into our table in their respective fields. So I'll just come back to this side, then I'll create it as a tuple. So this is safe and more secure, right? So this is going to be a tuple. I'll pass it here. Very simple, right? So we are inserting into our database, right? Into this particular table that we have created, and into these respective fields, these values, right? The values that are coming from here to this particular place. That is the basic understanding behind it. So that is very simple. Then after that, we are supposed to commit it, just like in case you are doing Git, right? You are working with Git to be able to save that particular database. So come back here. This is connection.commit. We are now committing that particular data to save it. So that is something very simple. Now let's save it. Perfect. So this is how to add data to our database, right? So I just come back again to our app itself. Then I'll create my table first. So anytime the person runs the app, I want you to create the table. So before our choices, I want you to create the table. So create table. So this create table is coming from here, right? So we are supposed to import this particular create table function. So I'll just come back here, and you notice that we only have 2 here, right? So I'll come back to the top of my file. Then I'm just going to create another option. So this is going to be my database functions, right? This is from db underscore functions, import my create table, and then my add data. So we are importing this particular functions, our create table function and our add data function inside our app itself. Very simple, right? So you see at the moment I did that, this is now 3, and this has been cached there, right? So there is a place that this particular file is going to be cached as like a format of a package. Very simple. So now let's come back again and let's add this our create table first, which is we are calling it. So anytime the person opens the app, we are going to create our table so that we have a place to put our data. Then after the person has entered the values, we will just add the data here. So I'll just go back here, then go with my add data function. Then I'll pass in my task, the task status, and then the task due date. So it's now going to add it to our database. So let's save it and see. So I'll just go back to the app itself that you have built. Let me expand it so I can see it well. So now it is empty, right? There's nothing there, so I can now put in something like my first task. Let's go as first task, right? Then this to do, you can specify the date. So let's use tomorrow's date. So in case you are watching this video, this was the date. So this is tomorrow, 16th. Then I just go with my add task. So if I go with add task, it's going to create the database, then it's going to insert it there. Perfect, right? So how do I see if the data is there? So I can just come back to my terminal, right? Then I'll open to the same location that I have, and it has created our database. So if I go with tree, now see that we have our database has been created. So this database is the same database that we had here, the one that we initialized when we this particular database here, right? That's what has been created. Perfect. So let me put it side by side so that I can see what I'm doing. Right, perfect. So that is the database that was created. Now, in case I want to see this database, I can just go with SQLite. So SQLite, let's make it like this. My tree, we have it here. So SQLite 3, because that's what you used to create it and we used to connect it. Now specify the database. So now it's going to move into this particular database. Now to get all the table, I just go with tables. Now see that this table that we created, task table, which is referring to the table that we created initially here, right? Create table if table not exist. This task table here, it has been already created, as you can see from our app. Now in case I want to get all the details there, I can just go back again to select all from my task table. Right, now close it. So now the first task to do 2020-11, which was what we entered into our app initially, this particular task has been added into our database, right? So now how do we see it? So we use the same thing, select all from task table to be able to see it, right? To be able to read it. So we'll be using that same idea to be able to move on to the next section of being able to read our data, right? So you move from here, then I'll come back to the read option. So the read means they are trying to view your data, and we use this simple function of select all to be able to get it. So I'll just go back to my database functions here, this particular file that we have. Then I'm going to create a function with this particular statement here. So I'll call it as my def view all data, right? Then I'm going to use the same thing. So c.execute, now passing this same function here. Copy this, and I'll paste it here. Right, so that is also, it's going to store everything. It's going to perform this particular statement for us. Then we need to be able to see it. We need to store it in a variable. So data and c.fetch everything there. Fetch everything there. Then store inside a variable called data. Then I want to return this particular variable called data. So this is going to help us view our result. Right, so if I come back again to the app itself, so now we have finished with the create option. Let's move on to the read option. So this is going to be the read. So to be able to view everything, I can just import this particular function that we had, view all data here. So let's import it here. So we have imported the create and then the add. Now let's import the read, right? So it's going to be view all data function, which is coming from the DB functions here, right? And then now I will just call that particular function inside my read option. So let's do it here. I'll come back down here. Then let's call that as my result. Then view all data. That is all. If I go with st.write, you're going to see that we have our result there. So result. Let's check our app. I hope you are following. I hope it's not too long. So now our data is there, right? So this is the view. Very nice. But it would be nice if we put it inside the format of a data frame. So let's see how to do that by putting it inside a data frame. So I'll add another data set there. I'll go back to my create, then I'll add another data, right? So that it will look nicer. So let's add another one. So let's call it as, let's say coding. Then to do. Let's make it like here to do. Let's add it. So we have one there added. Now let's add another one. So let's call it as reading. Let's add it again to do. Perfect. So we have 3. So if I go back to the sidebar to the read, you can see that now we can see that particular data that we have there all of them, right? Very nice, right? But this is okay, but this is not the best. So let's put it inside the format of a data frame. So I just come back to my place. So this is what we have, right? But I want to put inside the data frame. So I just come back here. We are using Pandas, so I'm going to create a simple function to help us get it in the format of a data frame. So we can just go with my df, then pd.read, or pd.dataframe rather, right? pd.dataframe, and I'll pass in my result. Right, if I pass in my result and I go with st.dataframe, my df, you're going to see that it's going to appear here, right? So let's take off this. So this is going to go, and see we have it here, but we need to give it a column header. So the first one is the task, the second one is the status, and then the date. So I just come back again to this place and specify the columns. The columns, which is going to be my task. The next one is going to be the status. Then the final one is going to be the task due date. Right? So now if I save it, it's going to reflect here, right? So we're going to have our task, status, and then due date. Very simple. So let's hide this one, right? Using a beta expander, and then we will move on to the analytics later. So we have finished with the read. So I'm going to just add a beta expander to it. So with st.beta expander, I'll pass in my view data. So view all data. All data, right? You can call it view all items, anyhow you want to be. Then we will just put it here. So it looks neat and better because we'll be putting the metrics there. I save it. And then now let's come back again. So now it is here. Very simple, very nice, right? So let's try and see whether we can plot this particular stuff, right? So let's see whether we can add a plot into it before we move on from the read to the update. So I want to add some stuff to it. So with st.beta expander, I want to add, let's say, my task status, right? So the task status, I want to add, let's say, a plot for them, right? Very simple. So we'll be using Plotly to help us with our plots. We already have our data frame here, right? We already have our data frame, so we want to be using Plotly to help us with that. So let's move this one from here to here, right? So that we can use it in both of them. Perfect, right? So now let's come back again and use a value counter. I got my tax df, right? Then I'm using value counter. I just got as my df dot. Let's pick the status option. Dot value count. Now convert the value count to frame. That is all. So that is all that we need, right? Then if I go back to this, so let's go data frame, my tax df, which is a value count now. Let's bring it side by side. So now we have our view all data here. We have our status there as a value count, right? 3, right? Very nice. So now let's plot it using Plotly. So we already have it as a frame, but we need to reset the index. So I can just call it as my, let's give it another name to tax df, my tax df again, dot reset index. Because this is only given as a status, but we need another column for this one, so which is the index. Then now I can plot it straight away, right? Perfect. So let's save it again, and then let's bring this one here. So I'll take off this and bring it here. So now it's going to change it. So this is going to be the index and then the status. So we can plot this one with Plotly. So let's import Plotly Express to help us with that. So it's going to be import Plotly Express as PS, right? So that is working with Plotly, right? So we are using Plotly Express to help us with this. So Plotly Express makes our plotting very simple. So I just come back to the read here that we have our data frame already here. So we want to plot the index as our labels and then the status as our value count, right? So it's going to be this option. So I have my p1 for Plotly, then ps.py, then bring it up, ps.py, then the Plotly takes the data frame itself, so tax data frame. Then what the next argument is going to be the names. So the names is going to be the index, right? Then it takes the values. So the values is going to be the status, the numbers, right? Perfect. So that is all. So to plot it, I just go with st.py Plotly chart using from Streamlit. I pass in my p1. So I save it now. It's going to bring our result for us in a very nice way. So as you can see, it's going to generate it, and it's only 3 because we only have the same status there. Take some time for it to run, and then let me expand so you can see it well. So it's loading the plot. That's going to generate our simple pie chart, right? Very nice. So everything is to do, because in our data set we only have to do. But if I add another one, so let's go back to the add, and then let's add another data set there. So I'll go back to the create option, then I'll add my data there. So let's add another one. So let's call this one as, let's say, building cool things. So building cool CLIs, right? Then I'll change it from to do to, let's use something like doing. Right, then let's change the date to a different date. So let's make this one like maybe 17th. Then I'll add it. Right, so I'm going to add that one to it. So if I add this particular data that we have here, let's add another one. So building apps. Then I'll change it from doing to done, right? See that this is giving us a refresh. The reason it's giving us this refresh is because it's always running. Then I'll go with my add tags. Perfect. So we have 3. So if I go back to the read option, you can see that we have 3 different status, right? 3 different status to see that all the data have been added, as you can see from here. Very nice. And we can see that if I go back to the view all data, we have it here, right? Then if I check the task status, how much is left for me to do, because we have it in 3 different options, right? It is a very nice plot. So I have more to do's than done, right? Very nice. So we are done with the read option. Now let's move on to the update. We can actually change this one in case you don't want to. You can take off this one, or we can hide it, but you can keep it like that to make it look nicer. It's not any problem, although it is tautology. So I'll go back to the update. So that's the next thing we'll be working on. So in case you have not subscribed to this channel, you can subscribe and check the links below for more. Okay, so let's work on the update option, right? So the update is trying to actually edit our details, right? So in the previous tutorial on the blogs, we did not do that, but in this tutorial we're trying to see how to add the update session to it. So before we update, let's view our data, right? So I'll copy the same thing that we had here, the same function that was used to view our data. So I'll copy this stuff here, because the same thing to view the data before we update, right? So that the person will know what he or she want to update. So if I save it, I'm going to have the option of updating. So let's take off this. We don't need this one again. We only need the data frame. Perfect. So we have it here. So we have the view all data, right? So this is all the data. We can call it as my current data, or anyhow you want it to be. So let's call it as current data, right? That's the current or recent, anyhow. So this is everything. So in case I want to edit it, I want to pick the particular text that I want to edit, then it's going to populate it back again, then I'll edit. So we'll be using the test area to help us with that, the test input option. So I'll come back again, then I'm going to loop through this particular place, right, and then select these tags, then I'll use it to update it. So let's create a select option. So I'll go back to my database function here, right? Then since we're able to use this same option to get all the data there, if I go back to what we had, this was it. So if I run it again, so we have a lot, right? But I want to only select the first column, right? So how do I do that? So this is what we have. I want to select only the first column. I can also do the same thing. So select. This time we are selecting only the first column. So we'll be calling that select distinct. Right, so it's going to be select distinct. I don't know how to spell distinct. Tax, right? So we are just picking the tax column from my table. So the table is my tax table. So this is going to pick only these ones, the first column, right? So now just give it to us. So this is what we're trying to select and use it to help us with our editing and our deletion. So I'll create a function to help us with that. So we can call it as view or tax. So view or data, you can call it as, let's say, def view unique, right? Because this is distinct tax. Perfect. Then I'll just come back again to my c.execute. Then I'll pass in the same statement we had, the select distinct. I'll copy the same thing here. Then I'll use this same thing here, right, as my statement. So this, I don't know whether the audio is, take off this. I don't know whether the audio is okay. Hope the audio is okay. Perfect. So that's what you're trying to get here. picking that one. Then as we did above here, we're just going to repeat the same thing here. So I'll copy this, then we will repeat it here. Right, perfect. We have created one function to help us with that. Now the next thing we're trying to do is we want to be able to select that particular data, right? So create another function to help us get that data. So in case I want to get a particular data per the name, I can also use the same option, right? So in that case, it's going to be like this. In case I want to, let's say I want to select one and get everything from here. Let's say I want to select the coding and get also this one and this one. We can also use this option of the select. So it's going to be select, right, everything from my tax table, right? This would be tax table where my tax, I'm getting this tax column is equal to, let's say, coding, right? Perfect. So that is something simple. So where my tax is equal to coding. That is also, this is a simple function. Then if I go now, it's going to select everything. So we are saying that select everything from my tax table where that particular column, particular field is equal to coding. So it's going to select everything for us. So that's what we're trying to do. So within this particular function, this particular statement, to help us pick only those details belonging to that particular unique tax so that we can be able to edit it. So I'll just come back again and create a particular function. So it's going to be the same statement we had. So let's call this as my def get a tax, right? So this is going to pick the tax itself, so tax. Then I'll just use the same thing, so c.execute. Now paste in this same thing that we had here. So I'll copy this thing here. You understand the point behind what you are doing. So this is just normal SQL statement. So make it like this. Let me expand it. Right, and now we'll be changing this one to be the tax that we have, right? So I'll be pasting this particular tax here. So I can just do it like this. Then go with dot format. Now pass in my tax. So this is one of the ways you can do it. Or you can also use this option. You can use the question mark option just as we had above. You can do this option here. We can use the question mark option. It's going to be this. Instead of going with this option, you just go with the question mark, right? Then you pass in your tuple, right? So any of them is still going to work. Either use the first one above or the second one. Any of them is going to work. But the second one, this is more safer than this one, right? Okay, so the power is in your hands. Now after getting the data, we are supposed to return it as we did here. So copy the same thing here. Then we use it to return back our data. Right, perfect. So everything is working. So we have two functions. So we have one function to get all the unique tax, another function to get the tax per the tax name, right? Very simple. So I'll go back and I'll import these particular functions there. So go to the top of my file. We are going to import my get tax, and then we're going to import the view or unique, right? Or v unique tax. I don't know how we called it. We called it was view unique tax, right? So view unique tax. Let's make it tax so that it's plural. So I'll come back and change this one from here to tax, right? Perfect. So we are done with this. So let's come back again to our update option, and then we will work on it in a very simple way, right? So we are viewing it. I want to create a select option to be able to help us get our view option. So let's call it as the thing that I want to select. So let's call it as my list of tax. And I'll just go straight away with this option of my, let me show you this. So st.write my view or unique tax, which is a function. So if I go back, go here. If I go back to my app itself and I go back to here, you can see that it has given to us all our stuff, and this is 0. This is the index is 0, right? So 0, 1, 2, like that, right? So we want to loop through them and get only this particular value, not everything, but one as a whole, not as a list of a list, but as the actual values itself. So I just come back again and go with this option. So loop through it. So I for I in view or unique tax, right? So if I go with st.write my list of tax, you're going to see the difference. So the difference is that in this particular option, this is the old one. If I scroll down, I don't know whether it is slow. Apologies for that. So if I scroll down, you see that now it has given to us, right, almost like the same thing, but we want only this one. So I'll just use this option here. Right. So this option, we are just indexing it. 0. So if I run it again, so this is no more needed. Let me put it side by side. I always want you to see what is being written. That's why. So now this is better, right? Perfect. So this is what we're trying to use to help us select the particular column, then we will populate it, then we will delete it, right? So I can just come back again, then create. This is no more needed. In other, and then this is also no more needed. In other, right? It's Russian. Okay, I'll come back here, then I'll create a select option. So let's go as my selected task I want to delete. So st select box, and I'll pass in my task to delete. So task to edit, right? Then I'll pass in my list of tasks. So if I come back and I save it here, you can see that now we are going to have it here. So I can select the tasks that I want to edit, right? So all of them here. Perfect. So this is going to be very simple. Then when I select this particular task by the name, I'll use a get task function that we created above previously to help us fetch all that particular data. So I'll just come back again, go with my result again. You can call it as result or selected result. Now just go straight away with the function. So get task function. I'll pass in my selected task. Then in case I want to see this particular stuff, I just go with st right, my selected task result. You can see that now if I select on the select task, it's going to show it only that one, right? Perfect. And everything is working as expected. So I can just go back to the update option, pick a particular one that I want to delete, right? And it's showing it. So I'm going to look through this one and put them in their respective place. So what do I mean? I mean that if I go back to the create option, right, we had some test input area that we added some data there. So I'm going to automatically look through that particular place and place inside these same places their respective data. That is what we'll be trying to do, because we have seen how to get the respective data from here in this option. So we'll be looping through them and putting them in the right place. So I just come back again to this app that we have, go back to where we added this same thing that we had. I'll copy this same thing, everything there. And I'll come back again to this particular place, right? So we're going to say that let's use a simple condition. So if there is a result, so if selected result, right, I want you to loop through them and put them here, right? Perfect. So if there is a selected result, I want you to put in their respective places as we saw here, these things. So this is 0, 1, 2. So I'm going to create a simple variable so that you'll be able to make it easy for us. So I'll come back again and I'll call it as my new task, right, which is going to be this one. So 0, 0, right? So my selected task 0 and then 0, right, which is going to be for this one, right? The next one is going to be my task status, which here was 0, 1. So selected task 0, 1, right? Then the next one was 0, 2. So it's going to be my task due date, selected task 0, 2, right? So that is something very simple. So you have gotten them in their respective places. So everything is working as expected. So to be able to put them in their respective places, this is where the magic lies. This is how to do the editing. So I'll be putting these values that we have gotten from here. So I'll put this one 0, 0, 0, which is this one here, right? Then 0, 1 here, then 0, 2 here, right? So that's why I've stored this inside this particular variable. So I'll come back Then I'll change this one. Let's change these ones to the new task, right? So that we know that it's totally different from the previous one. So I'm holding the shift, the control, and then the cursor. So new task, right? So this is going to be the new one. Then inside this place, I'm going to insert into that particular place my new task. Right, perfect. So that is how to work with it. Then for the status, I'm going to see how I do the status. I'll be taking off this because this is a test. I'm going to be inserting in my task status. Right, so that the person can see the old one on top and still be able to select this one, because the select box always takes a list or a tuple, right? So this is going to be the initial one. This is going to be the new one that you want to update to, and this is going to be the initial one. Then for the date, I just take off this. I'll paste in the task due date. I hope you understand the point. So we are just looping through the initial value that we had, which is these ones here. Then for the task, I'm placing it inside the same place. So by default, it's going to be using this one there. Then for the select option, I'm just putting it here, right? And then this one is going to be this one, right? So if I save it now and I come back here, so let's expand it. You can see that now it's working perfectly. So the first task has been placed in the right place, right? Then the to do has been placed here, as you can see, and then the date, which is this particular date, has been placed here. Very nice. So that is how to actually work on the editing. So if I come back to the top and I select a different task, so let's choose something different, coding. So now we have it changed here. Right, so this is going to be coding to do, and then the date. So this one has already been placed in our test area. This one has been placed here, right? Perfect. And then this date has been placed here. So now I can actually edit it. Very simple, very cool. Now let's try another one. Let's use a different option. Let's go with, let's say, building collapse. You can see that now it's going to change here. Then it's going to insert it into their respective places. Very nice. So that is how to work with it, right? Very nice. In case I want to edit it, I'll just click on this one. So let's say I want to edit building collapse. I'll just edit it. Perfect. So let's add that particular feature to it. So let's change this one to from add to update. Perfect. So we need to create another function to help us add it to our tags. I'll just take off this one and I'll go back to my database function and create a function to insert, right? Not to insert, but this time to set, because in case you are updating inside any SQL statement, we are supposed to what? Set. So let me put in the function so that it becomes easy for us. So let's do a simple example here, right? So it's going to be like this. So update. Okay, so let's say I want to change this one, like the coding, right? This coding to, let's say, something different. So update, right? Then I want to update my task table. Then what do I want to update to? I want to update the coding, right? Which is, so set my task, that is a column, the field, set my task to a particular value. So what do I want to set it to? I want to change the coding to, let's say, programming. Let's call that programming. Perfect, right? Then I have to specify where. So this is the new one that I'm putting there. So I'm putting into this particular field, right, this new data, right? Then I have to specify where I want to put it. So it's going to be where, right? Where, that is something very simple. Where that tax, right? So the same column is equal to coding. So now just close it. So now it has been updated. If I go back and I check it again, let's get everything. So now coding here has been changed to programming. So this is how we use to update or edit our data, right? So we just go with update. I want you to update this table, and then in updating this table, I want you to set to this particular field this new data. But where do I want you to set? Check where. Check this particular field that I have where the data is coding, then put this new data there, right? Again, I'm updating this table with this new data, right, in this particular field. Where do I want to update it? Go and check this same column field, which is this, where the task is equal to this. Then you bring and update it with this new information. That is the basic understanding. So using the same function here to help us update all the columns. So I just come back here, then I'll create that particular function. So def edit, you can call that edit, let's say task data, and I'm going to pass in my details. So I'll paste it there to save us time because it seems we are taking a lot of time. So I'll come back here and then I'll change it, right? So we have understood the concept. Is it the same thing? So we are just updating, right? As we saw earlier on here. So that's what you're trying to do. So you're just updating the task table. You're setting to the task status, the task due date, their respective values, right? Perfect. So that is the basic code there. So what you are doing there for the new, this is going to be the new task, the new one we are putting there, which is going to be set here for the set place, this place, right? And the old one is going to be the location, the where, right? So where task is called to this and this, right? That is the basic understanding. So this one can be written in a different way. It's still going to work, right? So that is the basic function. So the idea behind this code is that we are updating our table, and then we are setting to these particular respective fields, right, to these new values. And where are we setting? We are setting to these fields in any place we find our data, right? That is a basic understanding. So that is a simple function to help us with that. Now let's go back and then let's add it to our edit option. I'll come back again to our app. I'll have to import it. So this thing is becoming too long, so we can just do it in the format of a tuple, right? Then I'll call it as my edit tax data. Is another way of doing it, right? And it's still going to work, right? So by this time I can just do this and it's still working, right? So for import from database function, all of these particular functions from here, right? So let's go back and then apply that function. So I'll copy this one because it's going to be the same thing. So I'll copy this. We named them as the same, so I'll copy this function here. This is simple and it's going to save us time. So I'll go back to my edit option. So we have seen the read, we have seen the create, we have seen the update. Then I have to put in these new values that we have. So this is going to be the old ones and it's going to be the new ones. Then I'm going to pass it here, right? So for the new values that we are getting from here, and these are going to be the old data, right? So let's change this one. Successfully updated data. So let's put the new to this one. So we are trying to put this one here so that at least you see what was updated this to this. So this is going to be the old tax and then the new tax. Very simple. So let's go back and see what we have done. I'll come back again to my app. Let's expand it. So this is our app itself. So I'll change the new task to first task to second task. As you can see, this is first task there. So if I go back to update, now it's going to change it. Take it some time. Sometimes it may give you an error, but we will fix it, right? So this one will not give us any error, so that new task date is not defined. So I have to go back and check it out. It's supposed to be new task due date. We call it as new task due date, so we have to make sure that it's the same. So new task due date. Disadvantage of copy and paste. Perfect. So if I save it, let's go back again. Now update. This is going to be the old one. So let's go back to the updates. So we have our first task, right? Everything is working. So let's edit one and change this one from first task to second task. Click on update. Hopefully it doesn't give us any errors. Perfect. So it has been able to update it. So updated first task to second task. Now if I go back and I check it again, or let's go back to the current. So the current is showing the first task, right? So it would be very nice if we also show the user the updated data, right? So I'll just come back again and repeat the same function here, because if I click on this one again and I just change it and I come back again, the first task is no more there. So now it's the second task, as you can see from here, right? So it would be nice if we show the user the current data. This was the old one and then the new one right down here. So I'll show the user the new updated data here. So let's come back and repeat that same function we had, that same code down. I hope it is not too broad, right? So in case you want more, you can also check the links below. So I'll copy this one here. I'll copy this particular sub we had, the same thing, then come back down here. So after we have updated, I want to show the user the new details. right? So perfect. So let's go as result 2, and then this is going to be result 2, right? So let's make that database 2, data frame 2. There's going to be our updated data. So let's go back and see what you have done. Now you see we have one for the current, which is the one on the top here. If I check, this one is having the first, now this is second, right? So if I change this second to, let's say, third, so let's change this one, second task, and then third, right? Let's change the to-do to something else. So let's use the to-do to a different data to make sure that everything's working. So let's go with doing, then update. So we know that it's not only just the test area we can update, you can also update this one. Click on update task, then now it's going to update the task, give us a result that it has been successful. Then if I come down here, you can see that now we have it changed. So second task and third task. But if I go to the top, you can even put it side by side. This is second task, right? Very nice and very cool. So we are done with the update option. So we are finished with the create, which is adding data, read, viewing the data, update, editing the data. Very simple. And the basic idea was that we just look through our column, we placed or we inserted back into our test area our values, then we edited them and we added them to our database. Then for the next one, we're going to be our delete. So let's go back to the delete. The delete is going to be very simple. So for the deletion, we are just going to go back. So make a deletion in SQL is just simple. Just go with delete. So let's say I want to delete something. So let's go back again. Because I want to delete something, it's going to be like this. So delete. Then just specify what you want to delete, right? It's very simple. Doesn't take a lot of time. So delete from my task table. What do I want to delete? I want to delete a particular stuff, right? So delete where my, let's say the task is going to be, let's say I want to delete something like, let's say second task, right? Oh, that is too long. Reading. So I'm using that particular field to read. Then it's going to delete it if I run it again. So now there was reading here, but now it is no more here, right? It is gone. So that is how to delete. Deleting is very simple. So I just come back again. It seems that in everything, distraction is always simpler than creation. I don't know whether you have noticed that. So I'll come back and then I'll go back to my DB functions. Then I'm going to create a simple function to help us with the deletion. So let's go back and create a function. So def delete data. I pass in the tax I want to delete, so tax. Just as we had here, we had it here as delete, right? So I'll copy the same thing here because it's the same thing. I'll copy this, then I'll go with the c.execute. So c.execute, pass in my value. So I want to delete from task table where task is go to this, right? So you can do with this option. Take off this, then put in your tax. This is going to work, or the format string is also going to work, right? But then I can just go with my, we have to commit it because this is, we are taking it from data, so I commit. Perfect. So that is something very simple. So we are using this simple function, delete from task table where the task is equal to this particular option, right? So you can use this option or you can use the format string that we did here. Any of them is going to work. Perfect. So let's apply this particular function that we have on our delete option. So I'll go back here. This is going to be the delete. So as we said earlier on, it's always nice for you to show the user what you have before you delete. So I'll copy the same thing that we had to the user first before we delete it. So if I go back so that at least the user knows what he's going to delete. So let's change this one from updated data to current data. Let's make it 1-1. Right. Now change this one to current data. What the person wants to delete. Right. So if I go back and I check it, now you see that we have our data here. So the person can see the data that you want to delete. Then as we did above for the editing, in which we could pick a particular data, as we did like here, you could pick one and delete it. So we're using the same function to help us pick a particular column that we want to delete, right? So that it becomes simple for us. So I'll come back to the delete. then we will pick that same function that I showed you earlier on. So I'll come back here, copy the same thing we had, the same thing here. Let me expand it so that you can see it very well. We are picking the same thing to get the particular one that we want to delete. I'll copy it here. Right, so we are no more using get, we are no more using this particular function. We are using the delete function here. So it is going to be the delete data. Delete. We have to make sure that we have imported that particular function here, which was the delete data. We are going to come back and then we're going to delete everything. So I come back here, import it here, so delete data. Then now we have it. So the simplest idea behind what you have done so far is that we are just doing the same thing we did. We are just showing the person the data that he has available. Then you are looping through the unique tags that the person have, right? Or the unique distinct one. Creating a list. Select the option that the person can select to delete. So task to delete. Then we will just delete it. But before we delete it, let's create in such a way that we don't delete every data. Let's create a button. So if st.button, you can delete. You can even use a checkbox if you want, right? Delete data or delete tags. Then we will apply the function below. So let's take off this. We don't need this variable, right? Perfect. So this is a function we are using. Then I want to tell the person that the data had been successfully deleted. So st.warning. So data or tags has been successfully deleted. Right, something very simple. So this is a warning. Let's create another one for information before the person deletes it. Tell the person, do you want to delete it? Right, so do you want to delete that particular value? So dot format my selected tags. Do you want to delete that selected tags? If the person says yes, fine, then we just go with, let's make this one successful. Right, so this is a warning. Going to tell the person the warning that you want to do. Then if the person click on the button, it's going to tell her that it has been successfully deleted. So let's go back and check and see what you have done. See that we have it here. So this is our current data. Everything is working. So in case I want to, let's say, delete the second task and the third, I can just go back to this place, select that particular one here. You see all of them have been listed here. I can go with the second task. So do you want to delete second task and data? So let's make it like this. So I separate from the rest. So do you want to delete second task and third, right? Then I'll say yes, delete. Then after it has deleted, it's giving us an error, right? So let's see the error that's given to us. So this is one of the errors you'll be seeing most of the time. So programming error, incorrect number of bindings supplied, blah 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 blah. So sometimes you can fix this error by using a proper statement, right? So the statement we used was wrong, so we can just come back again and then let's fix it. So you can see from here how it's give us the traceback error, right? So it's telling us where it is. So this is from Streamlit, but if you check the next one, it's going to be line 126, which is referring to our main function, which is being called here, right? This particular function here. As you can see, the line is 126, 126. That's what it's showing here, 126. Then if I go back again, it's saying that the error is inside the app line 118, right? Inside the main. Then the place that we have the error is here, delete data, right? Then it's going to tell me that if I go back to the delete data, where can I find it? It's going to tell me where the error is. So inside delete data, which is found here, we have my line 42. So this is how we read the error and we try and fix it. Just start from the top. Right, it's telling us that Streamlit is having an issue with the code. Then telling us where the problem is. So we have our main function, which was in line 126, which we saw here. Inside line 126, that's where it's calling everything, right? Then it's telling us, apart from line 126, go back to the app itself. we have delete data, which can be found in line 118, which if I go back here, we have line 118, we have our delete data. So this is where the main error is coming back. Then I want to trace to this delete data is found inside this particular file, db functions. Line 42, we have an error there. So we just go back to this line 42 inside my db functions. So db functions line 42, this is where the error came from, right? So we can just change it from here because the statement was wrong. We can just change it from here to this option. So let's use this option here, right? Dot format, and now there's no more going to give us the error, right? So we have changed it to use this format string option. Now so the error is gone. If I click on delete, perfect. So it has worked perfectly. So that is how to fix an error in case you have any error with Streamlit or any other package. You just check the trace back and be able to know where the error is coming from. Now if I go back to the current data, so this is the old one, so it's better we show the user the updated data, right? The one that has been deleted. So it is repetition of code, but later on maybe we may fix it, or maybe in case you have a better way, you can also let us know in the comment section below. But don't forget to check the links below for some more materials. So let me copy this and come back and put it here. Yeah, so this is going to be the new one. So result 2 or updated result, or you can call it result 2 anyhow you want it to be. Let's make it like new result, right? Then this is going to be database DataFrame 2, and then this is going to be 2. So this is going to be current data, right? Oh, updated. So now we have 2 data frames being shown to the user. So this is the current one, right? And this is the one that after you have deleted, this is going to be the current data, right? Very nice and very simple. So that is how to work on the CRUD app. So you have seen how to build a very simple CRUD app from scratch in Streamlit. We have seen how to work with the create option, in which we added data to it by creating a simple test area for them. Then we created a function to add our data to our database. Then we move on to the next option of the read, in which you could view all our items using select. You could view all the results. Very nice. Then you could also see a simple plot of our status, right? How much is left. So a very nice plot here using Plotly. Then finally we went on to the editing option, which was where most of the work was done. It was new. We just looked through our data, we pick it, then we place them respectively into their respective places using the for loop. Then we updated them, right, using an update option from SQL Statement. Then we also came back to the last option of the delete, in which we're able to delete our data, right? So that's a very simple app that you have built. So thank you for watching this long tutorial. So the basic overview of what we did is that we just created this simple app, right, which we're using Streamlit and then Plotly and Pandas. These are the 3 packages. We created a function, a simple script called db functions, which had all the SQL statements, one to delete, one to edit, one to get using select, and I want to create a table, right? Very simple. Then we imported those here. Then we created our main function with all the 4 different concepts on CRUD: create, read, update, delete, respectively, so that in the future, in case you want to use any of them, you can just come out and pick it up and use it for your app. So thank you for watching this tutorial. See you in another session, and check the link below for some more materials on Streamlit, machine learning, and more. See you another time. Stay blessed.